Brought to you by Penguin.
The Secret Pilgrim by John le Carré. Read by Michael Jaston.
Chapter 1. Let me confess to you at once that if I had not, on the spur of the moment, picked up my pen and scribbled a note to George Smiley, inviting him to address my passing-out class on the closing evening of their entry course, and had Smiley not, against all my expectations, consented, I would not be making so free to you with my heart. At the most, I would be offering you the sort of laundered reminiscence with which, if I am honest, I was a bit too inclined to regale my students. Feats of secret chivalry, of the dramatic, the resourceful, and the brave. And always, of course, the useful. I would be enthralling you with memories of night drops into the Caucasus, hazardous crossings by fast boat, beach landings, winking shore lights, clandestine radio messages that ceased in mid-transmission, of silent heroes of the Cold War who, having made their contribution, modestly went to earth in the society they had protected, of defectors in place, snatched in the nick of time from the jaws of the opposition. And to a point, yes, that is the life we lived. In our day we did those things, and some even ended well. We had good men in bad countries who risked their lives for us, and usually they were believed, and sometimes their intelligence was wisely used. I hope so, for the greatest spy on earth is worth nothing when it isn't. And for the lighter note, over a second whiskey in the probationer's mess, I would have picked out for them the occasion when a 3-man reception team from the circus, operating inside East Germany, and gallantly led by myself, lay freezing on a ridge in the Harz Mountains, praying for the flutter of an unmarked plane with its engines cut, and the blessed black parachute floating in its wake. And what did we find when our prayer was answered, and we had slithered down an ice field to claim our treasure? Stones, I would tell my wide-eyed students. Chunks of honest Argyle granite. The dispatchers at our Scottish air base had sent us the training canister by mistake. That tale at least found a certain echo, even if some of my other offerings tended to lose their audience halfway through. I suspect that my impulse to write to Smiley had been brewing in me longer than I realized. The idea was conceived during one of my regular visits to personnel to discuss the progress of my students. Dropping in on the senior officer's bar for a sandwich and a beer, I bumped into Peter Gwillim. Peter had played Watson to George's Sherlock Holmes in the long search for the circus traitor, who turned out to be our head of operations, Bill Hayden. Peter had not heard from George for, a year now, more. George had bought this cottage in North Cornwall somewhere, he said, and was indulging his dislike of the telephone. He had some kind of sinecure at Exeter University, and was allowed to use their library. Sadly, I pictured the rest. George the lonely hermit on an empty landscape, taking his solitary walks and thinking his thoughts. George slipping up to Exeter for a little human warmth in his old age, while he waited to take his place in the spy's Valhalla. And Anne, his wife, I asked Peter, lowering my voice as one does when Anne's name comes up. For it was an open secret, and a painful one, that Bill Hayden had counted among Anne's many lovers. Anne was Anne, said Peter, with a Gallic shrug. She had bits of family with grand houses on the Helford estuary. Sometimes she stayed with them, sometimes she stayed with George. I asked for Smiley's address. Don't tell him I gave it to you, said Peter, as I wrote it down. With George, there had always been that certain kind of guilt about passing on his whereabouts. I still don't quite know why. 3 weeks later, Toby Esterhazy came down to Sarrat to give us his celebrated talk on the arts of clandestine surveillance on unfriendly soil. And of course he stayed for lunch, which was greatly enhanced for him by the presence of our first 3 girls. After a battle lasting as long as I had been at Sarrat, personnel had finally decided that girls were all right after all. And I heard myself trailing Smiley's name. There have been times when I would not have entertained Toby in the woodshed, and others when I thanked my Maker I had him on my side. But with the years I am pleased to notice.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?